8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Control Centre are watching over all of those operations. They're in a concrete blockhouse close to the pad, about 3 kilometres. There are about 100 people working in here, and they deal with all the systems concerning the launch vehicle and the launch zone. And they started their preparations months ago. Right now, their job is to make sure that Ariane is ready for takeoff, and they are monitoring events during the synchronized sequence while the computers are running all the final controls. The computers run 1,500 operations during these last 7 minutes, so it's very, very impressive. Look at those arms 3/4 of the way up, the yellow, orangey coloured arms clamping onto the vehicle. That's a close-up of them clamping on. They're feeding cryogenic propellant into the upper stage of the vehicle. Liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. And to store both hydrogen and oxygen as liquid, we have to keep them ridiculously cold. It's minus 253 for hydrogen and minus 182 for oxygen. And everyone's coming out now onto the terraces, all the guests that we saw earlier in the control centre, the mission control centre, going out to watch the launch with their own eyes. You actually get rather a good view from the terraces. We're about 10 kilometres or so, maybe a little bit more than that, from the launch pad. So they'll have a good view from out there. Coming up to the 1 minute mark.
De DDO, attention pour moins 1 minute. Top H0 moins 1 minute.
We are live at the Arianespace Centre for the launch of EUTELSAT KONNECT, built by Thales Arianespace as part of the NEOSAT programme of the European and French space agencies, and GSAT-30 for India, the Indian Space and Research Organisation. Our very best wishes now to everybody and all the teams as we sit back now and watch the launch.
À tous de DDO, attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top. Image du Vulcain. Allumage, EAP et décollage. Manœuvre en roulis. Les paramètres bord sont nominaux.
And we are off. Ariane 5 is blazing a trail across the equatorial skies.
La propulsion est nominale.
And there we see her. She's come out from the other side of the clouds, powering her way into space, heading east, out over the Atlantic Ocean. We've broken the sound barrier, Mach 1. We're travelling faster than the speed of sound.
La trajectoire est nominale.
And we can just hear the sound of Ariane now coming to us here at the Jupiter Control Centre overhead. Thundering overhead. Right now the boosters are doing all the work. They are providing 90% of our thrust. That's the equivalent of 12 jet engines.
La trajectoire est nominale.
Boosters are pushing us away from Earth's gravity, and we need a lot of firepower to do that. Each booster is burning 2 tons of propellant per second.
Les paramètres bord sont nominaux, le pilotage est calme.
What an average car uses in a year. The range operations manager is telling us that everything's going normally, as expected. So EUTELSAT KONNECT and GSAT-30 have started their journey. Bottom left-hand side of the screen, our altitude. We're presently 55 kilometres above the Earth.
La trajectoire est nominale.
Getting close now to the moment when we release the boosters, and we might even see that with the naked eye. Here we go.
Séparation des EAP.
That's what it looks like from space when we had cameras on a previous launch. And we can see the two boosters moving away. They have used their propellant, they've burnt it all up, and we don't need them anymore. They are falling back to Earth in a very specific pattern to ensure collision avoidance. So the dot in the middle is the Vulcan engine. That's our
normaux, la trajectoire est nominale.
Our launcher, and the two dots on either side are the boosters. That's the main stage engine powering its way away from us, powering its way into space. We've already lost 3/4 of our weight in just over 2 minutes, and that's, of course, the aim of the game. The lighter we are, the faster we go. And now we're getting confirmation from the range operations manager that we have separated the fairing. And look how those parts flex as they fall. It's called the breathing mode. And we can still see that dot, the engine of the main stage. And that's what it looks like up there. These are our CGI images. Our CGI images, which allow us to picture what it's like up there. The experts put very carefully planned parameters into the computer, and it generates these fantastic pictures. So everything we're looking at is what's planned for the flight. Some of the teams here in the Mission Control Center. On the bottom right-hand side, our speed is coming up to 3 kilometers per second. This is the new head of the CSG, Marianne Claire, the first woman to take the post. And she's going to be overseeing the refurbishment of the Guyana Space Centre. Last time it was refurbished was about 20 years ago in 2000, so that's going to be a very exciting project. Top right-hand side is our trajectory. It's the planned trajectory for the vehicle, and the white cross is our actual position of our launcher. We're looking at the main stage. At the bottom you can see the blue flame is the engine on the Vulcan the Vulcan engine on the main stage. That's what we could see burning when we saw it travelling away from us. This is now the tracking station. So we lifted off from French Guiana, and Galileo, in yellow, is the tracking station that's keeping its eye on us at the moment.
La trajectoire est nominale, il reste 3 minutes de propulsion EPC.
He's telling us we've got 3 minutes left of propulsion on the main stage. This was 5 minutes and 46 seconds ago. We lifted off from the pad here at the Guyana Space Centre, bang on time, 6:05 in the evening. Always hugely impressive watching an Ariane 5 lift off. And now, over 6 minutes into the flight, our two satellites are heading out on their journey. We can see at the front there, KONNECT, EUTELSAT KONNECT. That's in the upper position. Did you see how the birds all flew away when we lifted off? I think I'd fly away as well. If I was that close to the firepower. 2 minutes of propulsion left on the main stage, he's telling us. This is the Director of Space Transportation here from the European Space Agency, here with us. It's an important launch for both the European Space Agency and the KONNECT, which is the French Space Agency, because obviously this is the first electric satellite that is being launched as part of their partnership with European industry. This is the tracking station, so our flight path takes us out
Acquisition
across
de la télémesure lanceur par la station de Natal au Brésil.
east across the Atlantic, across Africa, and he's just confirmed to us that we've picked up the signal at the tracking station in Natal. That's in Brazil, so that's the next one along. You can see it there on the northeastern coast of Brazil. So as we fly into the range of a tracking station, it follows us, and the launcher sends signals back down to that tracking station, and the tracking station then sends that information back here to the Guyana Space Centre, and it's called telemetry. And telemetry, of course,
calme, tous les paramètres bord sont nominaux.
He's telling us everything's normal and all the parameters are calm. Telemetry comes from the Greek. Tele, of course, means remote, as in television, and metron means measure. So we are measuring things from a distance. Funnily enough, one of the first data transmission circuits was developed in 1845. That was between the Russian Tsar's Winter Palace and Army
Extinction de
headquarters.
l'EPC sur commande de guidage. Séparation de l'EPC.
So he's confirmed we've switched off the engine.
Allumage de l'ESC.
On the main stage, we've ejected the main stage, jettisoned it, and we've now switched on the engine on the upper stage. So we're really beginning the next phase of the journey now. The upper stage has taken the wheel, and its engine's going to burn for about 16 minutes.
Paramètres bord sont nominaux, la propulsion est nominale.
Just a quick look on the right-hand side, you can see the EUTELSAT KONNECT is at the front, and the black structure is called a cylinder, and inside that is our Indian satellite, GSAT-30. The Indian teams we're seeing here from ISRO. GSAT-30 is a very important satellite for India, built by the Indian Space and Research Organisation. Let's take a closer look.
Hello and welcome to the Guyana Space Centre in Kourou. Please let me introduce GSAT-30. GSAT-30 is an operational communication satellite designed and manufactured by ISRO, the Indian Space and Research Organisation, in order to provide communication services from geostationary orbit for a mission life greater than 15 years.
GSAT-30 is a high-power communication satellite built on ISRO's standard I3K platform, meant to provide the continuity of the services to our country in the KU and C-band. The satellite was realized at URO Satellite Center with the able guidance of Chairman ISRO, Director URSC, and the support from Team ISRO and the industry partners.
GSAT-30 will be the 24th ISRO satellite launched by Arianespace, following the launch of GSAT-31 less than 1 year ago, also on Ariane 5. Our cooperation with the Indian Space and Research Organisation goes back to 1981, when Ariane Flight L03 launched the Apple spacecraft. It is always with great pleasure that we welcome at CSG our Indian friends. I wish all the best to GSAT-30 and the teams involved in the launch.
Les paramètres bord sont normaux, le pilotage est calme.
Everything's going normally, he's been telling us, and the piloting is calm. Here we can see the Indian teams in the Mission Control Centre, and we're delivering GSAT-30 today. We delivered GSAT-31 for India last year in February the 6th, so that was nearly a year ago. That was the first satellite of 2019, so that's quite a coincidence. So let's turn our attention now to our other passenger, EUTELSAT KONNECT. It's a hugely advanced satellite on several counts. We've been hearing that it's fully electric, but it's also equipped to deliver high-speed broadband to parts of the world where a lot of people still don't have access to the internet. Here are the KONNECT teams. On its website, actually, EUTELSAT says broadband access is like oxygen. We need it to work, learn and play. And I have to tell you that I can vouch for that. The other day, my son's school had a bit of a broadband problem because it went down and they couldn't teach. So it just shows how reliant we all are these days on broadband. Well, let's go over now to the EUTELSAT KONNECT program directors to find out more about the satellite.
As the Arianespace Program Director for EUTELSAT KONNECT, I am in charge of the customer interface and launch mission preparation. I have today the pleasure to present the satellite to be launched in the upper position of this flight. Just over 2 years ago, EUTELSAT selected an Ariane 5 for the launch of its new generation high-throughput satellite manufactured by Thales Arianespace. EUTELSAT KONNECT will be the 34th satellite launched for EUTELSAT by Arianespace. Let me now introduce to you the EUTELSAT KONNECT Program Manager, Mr. Peter Noel. Good afternoon, Peter.
Good afternoon, Marie-Laure.
Peter, could you explain what is the main mission for EUTELSAT KONNECT?
Yes, EUTELSAT KONNECT is a high-throughput, highly flexible satellite operating in Ka-band, which offers a total forward and return capacity of 75 gigabits per second. Thanks to its 92 user beams from the 4 deployable antennas, the satellite provides coverage to 15 countries in Europe and 45 countries in Africa. In bringing broadband internet to Africa and Europe with state-of-the-art satellite telecommunication technology, EUTELSAT KONNECT will make a major contribution in bridging the digital divide. Initially, EUTELSAT KONNECT will operate over Europe and Africa combined, but thanks to the high flexibility that I mentioned, it will be possible in the future to reallocate all of the satellite capacity towards the African market.
Peter, what are the main features of the satellite and the challenges faced during the program?
EUTELSAT KONNECT is the first satellite to use a Spacepus new electric propulsion platform from Thales Arianespace. Satellites using electric propulsion provide effective solutions for satellite operators, allowing to maximise the payload capability of the satellite, whilst maintaining a low overall spacecraft mass. As a first of its kind, there have been many challenges during the development, qualification, manufacturing and test phases, but thanks to the skill and expertise of the Thales, EUTELSAT and ESA KONNECT teams, the satellite has been brought from conception to today's launch in just 4 years, which is a great achievement.
Thank you, Peter. We now wish you a very successful start of satellite operations and we look forward for our next launch with EUTELSAT this year.
Thank you, Marie-Laure. All that remains for me to say is go Ariane, go Thales, go EUTELSAT KONNECT.
Les paramètres bord sont normaux, la propulsion est nominale.
Everything's going normally, and during that film we picked up the signal at the tracking station in Ascension, which is a tiny volcanic island in the South Atlantic. It's halfway between South America and Africa, and NASA had a station there till 1989, I believe. You can see up there on the top right-hand side, we are using all our power previously to get away from Earth, and we climbed steeply into space. We've plateaued out a bit now, and we are picking up speed in order to climb higher and higher into space later in the flight. And you can see our tracking stations there. So we've gone out of the range of Natal and into the range of Ascension Island. EUTELSAT is one of the world's leading operators, and KONNECT is going to have an important job to do. Electric propulsion is increasingly popular these days. It allows manufacturers to actually make lighter satellites, and that in turn can then reduce the cost. There's some thumbs up back there. That can reduce the cost of the launch. And Thales Arianespace developed Spacebus Neo with the support
Acquisition de la télémesure lanceur par la station de Libreville au Gabon.
Of the European Space Agency. And there we have the folk from the European Space Agency. We had the Director General back there and the Director of Telecommunications here, Magali Vessier. So we picked up the signal at the tracking station in Libreville in Gabon. So the aim of the game has been to help European industries maintain their competitive edge in the world's commercial telecommunications market. So we're going to go over to the Director General now of the European Space Agency to hear a little bit more about that program.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here together today to witness a very important launch, an important launch for ESA. It's the satellite KONNECT. And we are here to witness this together with our partners CNES, EUTELSAT and Thales Arianespace. What is KONNECT? KONNECT is one of the family of NeoSat satellites, a public-private partnership program we started together with CNES in order to make the European satellite industry more competitive, especially the satellite industry concerning telecommunications. So we did in parallel a contract with Thales Arianespace and with Airbus and developing what we call the NeoSat platform. And this platform is already sold 10 times, so it's a big success. And it's one of our methods to develop ESA for the future, where ESA is not just and only an R&D agency, an agency of a traditional way, but also being a partner of industry to develop competitive missions. And we are also looking forward to be a customer and a broker for space. So therefore, this very important launch today is for us one step further in a new role of ESA for the coming years.
So Spacebus, NeoSat is a satellite platform, but what indeed is a platform, you might be asking? Well, you could think of it as the body of the satellite, with all the things that make satellites work, like the solar panels, the engines, the star tracker, so that the satellite knows where it's going, etc., and where it is. And the platform hosts the payload, that's the customer services. So, for example, transponders which deliver television, or a payload offering high-speed broadband, as in this case. And then, of course, satellite buses do tend to, buses, platforms, we can call them both, do tend to come in a series rather than a one-off, and they can be tailored to
Il reste 4 minutes de propulsion de l'ESC.
He's telling us we've got 4 minutes left of propulsion on the upper stage. They can be tailored to their owner's needs, a little bit like a car. When you buy a new car and you can choose different options, although obviously this is rather more sophisticated and complex. So Thales Arianespace has a series of satellite platforms called Spacebus, and their Spacebus Neo is the new kid on the block. It's a very important satellite for Thales Arianespace. Let's go over now to their CEO.
This is an important launch for us because it is a major step for our first all-electric satellite Spacebus Neo, which we built for EUTELSAT. Everyone at Thales Arianespace feels personally involved in today's mission. EUTELSAT is a forward-thinking company, and let me say how proud we are to partner with you once again on such an important satellite for your fleet. The new KONNECT satellite is a jewel of advanced space technology. It combines innovation with state-of-the-art technology to offer a fully modular platform with an intelligent payload for high throughput and agile services in Ka-band. We developed it under the NeoSat partnership project conducted by the European Space Agency, ESA, and the French Space Agency, CNES. KONNECT is a pivotal part of EUTELSAT's strategy to sustain its growth centered around connectivity. And it will play a lead role in bridging the digital divide in Africa and in Europe. The next major step forward will come in 2022 with KONNECT VHTS, very high throughput satellite, which we are currently building at Thales Arianespace. I would like to warmly thank Rodolphe Velmer and the whole EUTELSAT team for their trust in Thales Arianespace and giving us the opportunity to provide this exceptional satellite. My warmest thanks to EUTELSAT, ESA, CNES, Arianespace, and our teams at Thales Arianespace for this tremendous achievement.
No, we were just picking up there that we've got the signal now in Malindi in Kenya, and you can see at the top, the right-hand side of our screen, we're really climbing into space now, and our altitude on the bottom left, 531 kilometres high. Now, interestingly, Thales Arianespace had to build a new container for the KONNECT satellites, and it's big. It's about 5.5 metres wide and over 4 metres high, and it's so big that when they transported it along the motorway going along the south of France, they actually had to adjust the size of the péage, the toll, had to widen it. They had to deepen the road to get it under bridges, and they had to modify some roundabouts. So thankfully the mayor of Cannes has been very understanding and helped them to ensure that they could transport their satellite. The propulsion is normal. So we're powering at the moment with the upper stage engine, but it's getting ready to switch it off. It'll send the cut-off command when it senses that the launcher is correctly orientated. It needs to be on track, on time, at the right altitude.
Extinction de l'ESC sur commande de guidage.
And going at the right speed, which is exactly what's happening now, because we've had the confirmation there from the range operations manager that we're now able to switch the engine off, and that has indeed happened.
Manœuvre d'orientation au profit de EUTELSAT KONNECT.
And we've started the first orientation. EUTELSAT. We have to put our satellite into a very precise and specific orbit. So we're in the what we call the ballistic phase. We're coasting without the engine. We're on orbit. We've got the correct altitude and speed. And we're getting ready now for the next phase of the journey, getting ready to separate our satellites. In the meantime, the guys and girls here on this mountain inside what we call the CVI building are taking all the information from those tracking stations, all the telemetry that's being sent from
de la manœuvre d'orientation.
Those tracking stations, and they make a quick selection to check how the flight is progressing in real time, and they tell the range operations manager when they have the confirmation of those events, so that he or she can then announce those to the rest of us across the range. And then later these teams will analyse the information to see how the vehicle performed, and they can use that vital information to make adjustments for future flights. So our upper satellite, EUTELSAT KONNECT, is due to separate in, just under a minute now. It's going through a very precise set of manoeuvres. Once we release it, it's going to travel to its final orbital slot in space, 36,000 kilometres above the Earth. We call that geostationary orbit. Lots of satellites there, telecommunications satellites delivering all kinds of important services to us. And right now, the upper stage is orientating itself.
Début de la mise en spin au profit d'EUTELSAT KONNECT.
So he's just announced the
Séparation du satellite EUTELSAT KONNECT.
He's just announced the separation of the EUTELSAT KONNECT satellite. And And you have it there. So successful separation of our first passenger just off the east coast. Just off the east coast of Africa. So congratulations to the EUTELSAT teams, Thales Arianespace, European Space Agency and French Space Agency KONNECT. But remember that we do still have our second satellite attached, and it's GSAT-30, and it's inside the fairing, the cylinder rather. The cylinder was that black structure you could see.
d'orientation au profit du CILDA.
We started the orientation movement now, the orientation manoeuvre, which will allow us to separate the cylinder, which is a little bit like a fairing. It protects the satellite in the lower position, and it also provides the connection mechanism for the satellite in the upper position. And you can see how far we've come. We've travelled across the planet and higher into space. We're now over the Pacific Ocean off the east coast of Africa. That's what it looks like from up there. You can
Séparation du système de lancement double Ariane.
There what it looks like when the cylinder is separated. He's just announced it there that we have the separation.
Début de la manœuvre d'orientation au profit du satellite GSAT-30.
And we're starting the orientation maneuver now to position our next satellite in the correct orientation for its separation. And we can see GSAT-30 on the right-hand side of our screen. We can see it for the first time. Kind of silvery gold colour. It's got its solar panels all folded up. The GSAT satellites are India's homegrown communications satellites, therefore
Poursuite
digital
nominale de la manœuvre d'orientation au profit de GSAT-30.
Data and video broadcasting. They were developed and manufactured by their very own ISRO, the Indian Space and Research Organisation, who will also be operating them. So it's a very important satellite with a vital job to do.
and 12 KU band transponders.
The satellite has 3-axis stabilized, momentum-biased control system with a host of sensors, reaction wheels and thrusters.
GSAT-30 is an advanced communication satellite with a liftoff mass of 3,357 kilograms to provide valuable communication services to the country for more than 15 years. This satellite will generate around 6 kilowatts of power. A host of new and advanced technologies are used to realize this satellite.
The satellite has 2 large propellant tanks accommodated within its central structural cylinder. Liquid apogee motor, which is GSAT-30's main engine, is mounted on a separate deck which interfaces with the bottom ring of the cylinder. The power system of the satellite comprises of deployable double-sided solar arrays for generating electric power and a lithium-ion battery of 180 ampere-hour capacity.
GSAT-30 communication payload is equipped with 12 C-band transponders and 12 Ku-band transponders. C-band transponders are designed for two-way communication using VSAT terminals over a vast geographical region extending up to Australia in the east and Europe in the west.
GSAT-30 will provide continuity of direct-to-home TV services from this lot, as well as digital satellite news gathering and very small aperture terminal services. Ku-band transponders will provide services over Indian mainland and islands.
The onboard Ku-band beacon transmitter will help Earth stations to point their antennas precisely towards the satellite. GSAT-30 will be the 24th Indian satellite launched by the Ariane launch vehicle of Arianespace. The Ariane 5V vehicle carrying GSAT-30 onboard Ariane 5 launch vehicle from the European spaceport in Kourou, French Guiana. First, the launcher will inject GSAT-30 into a 250 by 35,975 km elliptical geosynchronous transfer orbit, commonly known as GTO. Subsequently, the satellite's orbit will be raised from the GTO to the final circular geostationary orbit GSO by controlled firing of its liquid apogee motor LAM in stages. The deployment of the solar panels and the antennas will commence as the satellite nears its geostationary orbital home.
The satellite employs high-power amplifiers and state-of-the-art antenna system to meet the requirements of multiple users.
With GSAT-30, ISRO is once again poised for yet another milestone event which will further strengthen our communications infrastructure and provide continuity of satellite communication services to the country well into 2030s.
So, India has a very ambitious space program. They're forging ahead with exciting projects. They've got lots going on. Things like, for example, navigation, Earth observation, broadcasting educational programs, exploring other planets, and I think I'm right in saying they have 3 launch vehicles, so very, very progressive and very exciting. And of course, in terms of telecoms, as we've heard there, India's got its fleet of the GSAT satellites. And right now, GSAT-30 is heading out on its way to join its brothers and sisters in space, on its way to its new home. And right now we're 36 minutes in, so a few more minutes before that happens. Our speed 7.71 kilometers. ISRO have packed their satellite with cutting-edge technology.
GSAT-30 was shipped to the launch base during early December, and the satellite preparation, integrated test, propellant loading and the combined operations were carried out by our team and with a full-fledged support given by Ariane team. After the successful launch of Ariane VA251 and injection of GSAT-30 in the intended orbit, the master control facility at Hassan will take over the control. Subsequently, orbit raising maneuver, deployment and in-orbit tests will be carried out and the satellite will be dedicated to the users.
And indeed, space is all about relationships and working together, and the delivery of GSAT-30 is a great example of that because it's a strong bond uniting Europe and India in space cooperation. France and India have been working together in space for over 3 decades. Arianespace has orbited 23 satellites and signed 24 launch contracts with the Indian Space Agency. And the first one they launched was India's Apple experiment satellite. We heard about that earlier, and that was on Ariane flight LO3. That was in 1981. About a minute now until the planned separation of our second passenger, ISRO's GSAT-30. Everyone concentrating hard. You can see it there on the left-hand side, and the upper stage twisting and turning there. These CGI images showing us what has been planned for this trip.
Séparation du satellite GSAT-30.
And we have separation of the GSAT-30 satellite. Great news! Ariane 5 has delivered her second passenger, GSAT-30, over the Indian Ocean. Over the Pacific. Oh no, the Indian Ocean, my apologies. So congratulations to everyone at ISRO and across India. Best wishes as you now take charge of your spacecraft. So, a successful mission today. 2 new satellites are born. Happy faces all round. And proud smiles here at the Jupiter Mission Control Center. And people have worked really hard for months. And some of them for years to get these satellites into space. So today is a really big day. For some people the work is done, but of course for others, the teams in the control centres, the work is just beginning. They're taking charge of their babies now and monitoring their first manoeuvres, and we wish them all the very best for their operations. EUTELSAT KONNECT is going to take a